Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me once again one and only Michael Hyson. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing all right.
Great, great. And so what have you been up to lately?
I've been doing a lot of meditations and research and practice into furthering my knowledge, and I guess you can call it a repertoire, if you will, of black magic and sorcery practices.
Great. You before we started before we were chatting, you had mentioned you had been studying a little bit about divination. Uh, what stuff have you been touching on lately?
Well, through divination, there's different techniques that I've been learning and things that I've been doing over the since last year. One of which is spiritual conjuration through certain devices, like say pyromancy through candle flames, or in my case, the black scrying mirror, using a practice that I can't speak on right now because I don't have authority to do so. But it deals with a bunch of candles and the black scrying mirror, and it's basically calling forth the spirit through there for knowledge practices, and even in some cases you can even go into other forms of sorcery if need be, but it's mostly about tapping into that void aspect of yourself.
Okay. You mentioned about working with with the candle flame itself. Now, which element would you say you identify with most and are able to work with the most?
I'd have to go with fire.
Fire.
Pyromancy, hands down. I'm a Aries, so it actually fits me.
Right.
So, and
Interesting.
I actually enjoy working with fire because it doesn't just fit me. It's not just my element, but most of the spirits that I work with are fire spirits, such as the jinn.
Do you feel like it was kind of like the spirits you work with that are associated with fire kind of reached out to you, or was it kind of like you reached out to them?
I'd say more 50-50. It was more mutual. In some cases, I was introduced by other spirits to the spirits that I'm working with. For an example, in when I started getting into Slavic witchcraft, I found out that they practiced Haitian voodoo in Russia, and I didn't have a clue about that because I was going through folklore, working with Kakashi and Baba Yaga, even Belobog or in Chernobog area. And it was weird because next thing I know, the spirit came to me. Turns out it was Papa Gedi, part of the Gedi family of Loa, and that's how I was introduced to him. Other times, it's me seeking them out to get to know them, to become an apprentice, to learn what they have to offer. So it's kind of 50-50.
How did he come to you?
It, I was working with Baba Yaga at the time. I was heavily influenced by Slavic witchcraft. It was getting into divination, getting into the void meditation, working with the black scrying mirror. And all of a sudden, I had an image of an African male with a straw hat. I didn't know who this person was. I've never seen him before. So I reached out to a couple of my coworkers and friends, even a couple of my teachers, and it came back that it was Papa Gedi. So I had to do a lot of research on him and find out, who is this spirit? It's definitely part of voodoo. I know that much.
Yeah.
But I didn't know which one at the time. So turns out he's the head of the Gedi family. And if for those of you who do not know, Gadi family is a third classification of Loa, and they're basically a house of Loa that are considered to be how should I say this, non-celestial, basically. Lineage-wise. So if you're not born into it by blood, you are into that aspect. So go upstairs, buddy. No, go upstairs, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. My son was just down here.
No, that's
but
fine.
Anyways, yeah. So he basically he answers to Baron Samedi, a spirit that I do work with a lot from the Haitian Voudan system. So that was a kind of like a spirit to spirit representation type thing, saying, hey, this guy's on the up and up. He's earnest in his studies and his practices. Why don't you work with him? Introduce yourself, see what happens. That's how I got in contact with him and how he appeared to me.
Baron Samedi is very popular among the locals. And what would you say it's like working with him?
It's one of those ones that I don't really work with him that much, not unless I have a specific thing that I'm doing. But when I do work with him, I wouldn't say it's too easy, but it's right up there with, you got to put a little bit of work into it to get to answer you and to work with you. But a lot of the time it's like working with Papa Legba. You got to give offerings and you got to kind of spoil them a little bit, which is kind of cool. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that you had been studying more about meditation, and go into that.
Now, there's a lot of different ways to do it. For me, I started getting into heavy meditation a few years back when I was learning from Christopher Penziak's books. He had some meditational exercises that were very easy to understand and very easy to put into play. It dealt with remote viewing, it dealt with the void meditation, and it dealt with, I guess you can call it the chakra and kundalini aspects of depictions of images that you had to work through and see visually. Like, say, for example, in his book, the Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft, he has an exercise that shows you sitting there basically meditating. You count from 10 to 1, 14 to 1 if necessary. You're visualizing a black screen, like a netted screen, like you would see looking out the window, seeing yourself go through that screen into a forest at a base of a huge tree that has a hole in the base. You go into it, spiral staircase, and you come to almost like a celestial aspect up at the top with your altar. At least that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to represent your physical altar. And that's where you do a lot of your spiritual workings with any number of spirits. Like I said, it's very simplistic and easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to enter into. I actually added onto this through my current studies using different tools such as the black scrying mirror, cartomancy, runes, seals, and like I said, pyromancy. I even tried the crystal balls. Didn't really get too far with the crystal balls though.
Okay. And you had also mentioned that you had been your study of meditation has been tying into baneful sorcery. And let's touch on that.
Well, one of the things I realized through my current studies and path working is when you are doing any form of baneful or wrathful sorcery, one of the things you do is you meditate. And like I said, the the method I can't get into, but it's basically a circle with a black scrying mirror, and you're calling forth the spirits. The black scrying mirror is in a inverted triangle. You have an effigy of your target or victim, enemy, whatever you want to call them, and you have candles on either side with incense on either side. You're using things like sulfur, you're using black powder, black sand, something like crystallized salt. Salts work great for this. It creates an electrical charge. It creates a current between two black candles and a red candle. And your effigy is sitting dead center in this. And then just outside of that triangle, you have your incense pointed inward, so the ash is literally falling on the effigy. But like I said, right behind the effigy, you also have the black scrying mirror. You have candles all the way around. And this I started using as a form of conjuration for spirits of vengeance, demons, so to speak, of hatred. Working with, say, Azazel, Abaddon, death spirits like Anubis, Sutekh, Hecate, Isis, spirits that really have influence with the dead, because I wanted the death essence to be upon this. And a lot of places it really comes in handy, because one of the spirits that I was working with put a thought form in my head, and I ended up going out to not Home Depot, it was Hobby Lobbies, and I bought a box. It was 25% off. And I ended up using this not only as a cursing jar effect, but also I made the box into a Dibbet box, which is a Jewish custom. The Dibbet box is used for those types of spirits that are not good for humanity. However, it doesn't relate to just demons, like the Coco demon, for an example. It deals with any spirit, be it human being, say, for example, a vengeful spirit or wrathful spirit or whatever of an ancestral lineage. It does not matter. A baneful spirit is a baneful spirit, and it can be trapped. So I ended up not only doing this spell for 7 days, this destruction rite, working it as I would any other cursing jar, putting everything inside of it, like the iron, poking out the eyes, the throat, the voice box, making them deaf, mute, and blind, but also making the X across the photo with the black handle that I had on the center. And I ended up putting everything inside the cursing jar after defacing it or defaming it, literally treating it like trash, basically. And then I ended up putting everything in the Dibbet box after I had put seals and runes, wardings, you name it. It was all on there, and it was all charged up. And I kept it there in complete darkness for 7 days. Every single night between midnight and 3 a.m., I lit a black candle and let it burn all the way down. So the wax was literally dripping down over it, sealing it closed. And the whole time I had this black scrying mirror right behind it. It was powerful. I showed it to my teachers, and they said that was one potent rite that took place. And it was interesting because I tried getting rid of this thing like 3 different locations. I almost gave up, and I ended up tossing it in the river. And one of my elders said that water is a great graveyard because nobody gets to it, and it doesn't let daylight in. It stayed there in that one spot for about 2 days before they opened up the dam, and it got swept out into the ocean. So yeah, it was a very potent rite, but like I said, it took place like over a 2-week span. 7 days for the right, and then 7 days in complete darkness before I tried getting rid of it. But yeah, I did all this through divination practices and conjuration through this black scrying mirror. It was something I'd never done before.
Very interesting method.
And that it was.
Yeah. You'd also mentioned you've been getting into Indonesian black magic. Can you go ahead and touch on that?
I was earlier this year. I ended up getting into brujeria, and this led me back into voodoo. And since I started my new job, I've been working with a man that is a voodoo practitioner out of Africa, and he ended up telling me, he gave me some pointers on voodoo, and it was interesting because I started tracing some of these things down, and as I was doing my homework into what he was telling me, I ended up getting the items that he asked me to get. And we actually, this is to anoint your altar, by the way. And as I was, just researching this, because I'd never heard of these things, these items that he had asked for, and this led me into the type of magic that is basically known as hurting someone from afar without a touch, and that's kind of expanding on that definition a little bit. Basically, it means harming from afar. And this is called Santet, okay? Santet. And this, I started delving into this, trying to figure out, okay, where does this come from? Why does this term keep coming up? So I found out it was actually Indonesian witchcraft. It was black magic, and it was associated with shamanism. And shamans normally yield, healing type rituals and rites, but on occasion they are paid to perform these rites. Sometimes it's out of retribution. And the more I delved into it, the more I ended up understanding that there's actually 5 to 6 other practices that go along with this. And most of them I can't even tell you the names of, because they're weird spelling. But basically, Indonesian witchcraft and black magic is associated with Islamic tradition as well. So I'm just, like I said, I just started getting into this, and it's really exciting and educational for me.
It is, because I would have never known that.
And the thing is that the shaman is actually known as a Dukan, and that's Dukun, for those of you who want to look it up. Very interesting practices, and I found out that they had their own, well, let's just call it witchcraft burning time, if you will. Back in 1998, it was known as the ninja era because there was so much paranoia. It wasn't just legal or church-bound retribution; it was also individuals going underneath their own authority and eliminating the Dukan. It was like 150 to 300 Dukan practitioners were killed through this time. And like I said, I've been going through the history and everything. It's been very, very educational.
It is very educational. And also, you had mentioned about working with Nigerian black magic. Can you go ahead and
Yep.
a little bit on that?
Okay. As I said a little bit ago, my teacher, my current teacher, my co-worker, he gave me 3 items to look into that he wanted me to collect. And it is called 999 cents incense, and it comes from Africa. But you can actually substitute this for Neg Champa.
Okay, that's pretty
for
cool.
those of you who can't get it. But I found you can get the 999 incense sticks off eBay, and it's basically $55 area. But for like 6 times that, it's like $250 total for just that one set of incense sticks. Then you have 6 flowers oil, and 6 flowers oil perfume. And basically what this is you'll also need a type of libation. And those of you in black magic know that a lot of times it's in blood. Okay. So you're going to be doing animal sacrificing, or, sacrificing from yourself, if you will. And in this particular rite, you are basically consecrating your own altar to the spirits. And you only have to do this one time, just one time. And after that point, you're able to use any type of spirit that you want to work with after this. Any kind of spirit. It sets you up for a good amount of practice. And this is actually the first spell that he's actually teaching me. He and I have had numerous conversations on black magic. He's seen my altars. He's seen, he's seen the type of rites that I've done, and he was impressed with it. So he's taking me underneath his tutelage, if you will, as an apprentice.
Okay, well, we'll definitely have to have you back when you get very deep into that. So I'd like to see where that leads into.
I can't wait to see where it goes into next.
Yeah, same. So what can we expect from you in the near future?
Well, I'm writing a few grimoires right now. Yeah. One of which is on voodoo. I've got one on shamanistic practices, and I just completed my 4th essay that I sent in to Edgar Cavall. So he'll be hopefully publishing it in one of his future books. I'm not sure which one. But he's going to be publishing that one. And he's looking forward to the next one after that, because this one actually sets me up for the actual practices, which is what I've been working towards for the last 5 years, since I did my first essay for him. So there's a few things that I got planned that I'm going to be getting into. So
okay, well, I'm very much looking forward to that, and we'll go ahead and call it a day. And thank you for coming on. It's always good.
Anytime.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and to all the viewers, like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.